it all cleaned up and put away.
Hello there.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. Dakota, I feel like it's been forever.
I mean, it kind of feels that way. It always feels that way. I just never get to see you until Q&A days, you know?
I know. It's frustrating, but I'm glad we get to be here today, Dakota. I missed you very so much. We had some great topics this past month. Yeah, the last few weeks. And you were brought up multiple times about questions we couldn't answer. And so hopefully that doesn't happen today, because today's the big one. Q&A. It's literally all about what does Dakota know and not know. So stump the advocate, guys. Let's stump Dakota.
It's here. All right. Half of them is a team effort, you know?
That's right. Just kidding. Hello, everybody. Hello to those of you who are just tuning in. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to go ahead and share the stream or tag some people if you have some friends or family who have loved ones in their life with special needs, or just like seeing Dakota's face and want to chat with Dakota. Please send this either this link to somebody, tag them in the comment section, share the stream to a support group. Same goes for people on both YouTube and Facebook here. You can do the same thing. But welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Today is Q&A, where we get to ask you to ask us some questions. So, sorry, let me find the right banner here. Boom, Q&A. So, Dakota, do we have anything we can talk about before we get some comments flowing through? We do have Ernie here. Ernie, what's up, Ernie? Hello to you. Thanks for being here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if this might be something that has already been talked about or mentioned on our lives, but it's what everybody's been, a lot of our clients have been talking about lately, is how slow and how behind schedule hearings are. It is crazy right now. I mean, this kind of snuck up on us. It's been a long time coming, but there comes a point when we looked at our hearings and we're just like, hold on a second. We have, you know, at first it was like 2 or 3 or 5 cases that were a week behind their due date. Now it's almost every case we have. It's like 2 months, 3, 4. I think we had one where the decision was supposed to be out last December. I think we might have finally gotten that one, actually, but it has been really crazy. And the question on everyone's mind is, well, what can we do about it? Frankly, unfortunately, not a whole lot. We've had cases where the judge was supposed to make their final decision, and they have a due date. It's written right there. It says the judge has to decide by this day. That day comes and goes.
So let's talk about that.
Do we get trouble? Do we win automatically? No. It just keeps going. And we inform the state, and they say, yeah, we know, but they still got to make their decision.
So that due date, Dakota. So I do get questions about that often in regards to, because when I'll talk to a lot of people who call in and they want to know when the decision is coming, right? They've already done it themselves. They've done the application. They've gone through the assessment process. They got denied. They filed the appeal. They had the appeal, and they said that their hearing itself was past the due date, right? Or maybe it's approaching and it hasn't been scheduled yet, and they're like, oh my gosh, the due date is next week. Why isn't it on the calendar yet? So for those of you who are not familiar with ACMS, that's that appeal portal website that anybody can log into to see their own appeal that they're filing. So the due date is technically not necessarily the date of when your hearing has to happen. So appeal and hearing are two different words, right? They technically mean two different things. I know it sounds kind of simple, but you know, a hearing. So let me back up. The appeal itself is the dispute that you file. It's the thing you're disagreeing with something, therefore you file an appeal. Whereas a hearing itself is an actual meeting with a judge, right? And so a hearing can be one of many results or outcomes of an appeal. And so the appeal deadline, notice it says appeal deadline in your system or in the letter you received. That's the deadline for when, like Dakota mentioned, when a judge has to actually make a decision. So that means your hearing already was held. You already had the conversation of whether or not you're going to get protective supervision or hours with IHSS. So the appeal deadline is when the appeal should be wrapped up and done and a decision has been made. I do get that question a lot, Dakota. So I don't know if you have any thoughts to share on that, but
well,
the deadlines, the deadline, they hold everybody else to deadlines, yet for the state to not worry about their own deadlines is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I can say about it. One is that there are things that can cause that due date to be pushed back. If you have to request a postponement for whatever reason, you need more time to get documents, or the day they scheduled the hearing, didn't work for you and you need to reschedule. That can push that due date back, and so that's why we never really pushed it that much in the past. Or like during the hearing, if one party or another needs more time to get documents, and that could push back the due date as well. But yeah, this is way beyond what we would ever expect. What's currently happening now. The other thing I'll say is what does happen, because there is a penalty for the count, or for the, I guess for the state in this case, for missing their deadlines. From what I've been told, and this is only recently, I feel like we haven't seen it play out that much. What I've been told is that if the judge misses their deadline, and some months later they finally reach a decision, if they rule in your favor on the appeal, then the state is supposed to pay you whatever they would call it, basically they get fined, and they're supposed to pay you a penalty for being late on your decision. But from what I've heard, that's only if the judge rules in your favor. So, I've heard one person mention that has actually happened to one of their clients, where they actually did receive that fee that they got a check. They're not being charged a fee because their decision was late. But I mean, just for our clients, that could be a lot of people getting fees, just because some of them are like 6 months late. It's crazy.
It's going to be really interesting to see how the state plays out, because it used to be something very, very strict, right? The judge cannot be late on the due date. And like you said, Dakota, for those of you who heard him mention, the due date is subject to change depending on when the hearing happens, right? So if you have a hearing that maybe there's been a couple of rescheduling conflicts, right? Maybe the county had to postpone because the appeals rep was sick, or maybe you had to postpone because the hearing date fell on an important day for your loved one to have surgery or something like that, right? So there may be a couple of postponements, which means it may take a couple of months to finally get the hearing actually on the calendar again. And so that could happen, and your due date could be a week later, right? And so usually what the judges have always done is they ask for time waivers. They'll say, hey, so we're here today having the hearing. The due date for this appeal is next week. I need a 30-day or a 60-day time waiver, basically asking for an extension on that due date. That automatically that due date is extended, right? Now, what we're seeing is the judges aren't even asking for it anymore, because all of the hearings are falling after the due date. So when the judges used to do that, and they would ask for the time waiver with the new due date, a month out, it was such a big deal for a judge to be late on a decision because of the interest that Dakota was talking about. It's always been kind of a discussion where that on those rare times where a judge was late on a decision, they would owe that claimant interest on the payment if they were ruling in their favor, right? So how this is going to play out now with every single hearing being late, almost every single appeal due date, it's going to be a really interesting few months, Dakota, when they start catching up. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. We do have a question for Mr. Ernie. Ernie, does Regional Center help with speech? So when you are a part of early intervention, which is kind of like the pre-regional center, if you will, it's like regional center before the age of 3, basically. So early intervention regional center, yes, they can offer some speech support. But once your child turns 3 and they're under the Lanterman Act and they're in phase 2, I think is what it's called, where they're locked in for regional center long term after the age of 3, then speech therapy, speech services is now in the hands of the school district. The school district is obligated to provide that, not regional center.
Now,
sorry, Dakota.
Sorry,
yeah,
follow-up question on that is that, because I believe that's right. That sounds right, that the school would take care of it. Would it go back to the regional center once the child grows up and is an adult and no longer covered by the school system?
Great question. So when they are in a position for adult transition programs, then it's on the adult transition program, right? But if the adult transition program is being covered, like if there's a cost to it and it's being covered by the regional center, then technically yes. So when they're enrolled in the school district, it is up to the school. If they're no longer enrolled in the school district, then some therapeutic interventions can be covered by Medi-Cal. And if Medi-Cal can't cover those things, then regional center would step in. However, the problem that a lot of people have is they'll ask for speech therapy, they'll ask for one-on-one therapy, whatever it is, for an adult loved one, and they'll go to regional center, and regional center says, you got to go to Medi-Cal first. So then they go to Medi-Cal, and then Medi-Cal says, you don't qualify for it, or you don't qualify for us to pay for it, or whatever, right? And so then they go back to regional center, and they're like, Medi-Cal doesn't want to pay for this. And the regional center says, okay, well, we're going to take a look at his speech delay or his or her speech delay, and they can kind of determine how much time is needed that they'll pay for. It's kind of a weird thing. So a lot of people have trouble getting maybe like a good amount of speech therapy if it's necessary. But the long roundabout answer to your question, Dakota, is it is kind of a yes or no. But yes, if they're no longer enrolled in the school district because they've aged out, then regional center can assist with speech therapy if it's necessary, to my understanding.
All right.
Ernie does say his daughter is 21. So if she's 21, if she's been in special education, if she's had an IEP, she may, or if she, Ernie, oh, sorry, you said that second question. You said after she graduated, her school district dropped her. So that means that she probably was on a diploma track, not a certificate of completion track, right? So if she graduated with a diploma, she's still technically entitled to adult transition like daycare type school, which regional center can help with. So I would contact your regional center and ask about day programs, ask about furthering her education, academics in general. They should be able to assist. And I know that's a lot easier said than done because regional center, much like IHSS judges, are being very annoying to work with. And so if you contact your regional center caseworker and say, hey, she's aged out of the school district, she graduated with her diploma or her certificate, whichever she got. They no longer want to support her in speech, but she still needs speech services. See what they say. If they give you some pushback on that, give our office a call. You can always speak with Vinaya. She's a regional center advocate. She's been on our stream here a few times. But Ernie, I would recommend you give us a call if that is the case. Sorry, Dakota, were you going to say something?
No, I think you took care of it.
Okay. Cool.
We have caught up on questions now. Again, we'll keep going. If anyone else has questions, you can put them in there. But Caleb, is there anything else, any other topics that you wanted to bring up that have been big lately?
Ernie, thank you. Appreciate your comment. And if you have any more questions, Ernie, please let us know. This is all for you guys. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, things you want to discuss today, please drop a comment below. Let us know. So things that I might want to bring up. What do I want to bring up? I'm trying to think. Because I feel like when you're working with IHSS, when you're working with families, with regional center, there's always something going on that we can bring up, right? And so in regards to, I'd say, some of the more recent stuff, I'm thinking about, you can let me know, Dakota, if we should talk about this, the pressure right now. So we're seeing a lot of people who have protective supervision or pursuing protective supervision getting either denied or removed a little bit more frequently than maybe we have seen. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. So for people who have that question right now, None of you watching may have that question, but if there is somebody watching who has that question, why are we seeing why is protect supervision right now seemingly being more difficult to obtain than ever before? Do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, frankly, I'm not sure if I know the answer to that. I mean, it's hard for us to know for sure without doing a lot of research into the exact numbers of people who are being granted or being terminated and whatnot, and only some of that information is even available. But
okay, then I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
So the reason I asked this is because I had 2 phone calls this week where that conversation comes up. That conversation comes up a lot, right? But on occasion, I'll get this question, which is rather specific. What do social workers or the county have to gain by wrongfully denying somebody protective supervision, Dakota? I ask this because, and some of you who are watching who have had maybe some really terrible experiences with IHSS and social workers, a lot of people feel that they came in and they didn't even really assess. They felt like maybe they had already made a decision before they even walked in the door and met their child. And a lot of people feel like it's almost kind of like the social worker or the counties are rewarded for removing the benefit wrongfully or denying it, right? Now, of course, we're not going to assume something we don't know, but for those who are asking, is there something to gain? Is there, anything that maybe we could shed some light on without being too controversial today?
I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting that you're trying to bring up. But I mean, like, of course they would say no, right?
No, the question is, does the county get bonuses? Do they get surpluses if they save money by denying people wrongfully? Do social workers get bumps in their pay for taking advantage, right? These are some of the questions that I'm referring to that I do get asked a lot, right? They're hard questions because they're a little uncomfortable because, it's a tricky one, right? But a lot of people do ask this. So if somebody were to ask you an uncomfortable question like that, Dakota, what would be some encouragement you have? What would be some thoughts? What do we know?
Well, what I will say is that it's certainly not every social worker that even seems to be that way, for one, right? Now, I have seen, as you were saying about social workers who come in with a predisposition to deny. That's not even, in some cases, that's not even a question, because we've had some assessment notes we've received for hearings that they straight up said, well, every child of this age needs complete and total help, and it's not possible. I saw that in one social worker's assessment notes. They said it's not possible for a child of this age to need protective supervision. So in some cases, yes, that absolutely is a thing where they will be predisposed to denying. However, I wouldn't say that's even close to the majority of social workers. Now, it's still hard to get protective supervision, especially for very young children. But I don't expect any kind of... When I go into an assessment, I do not have an expectation that this person is going to be particularly difficult, or that they're going to argue with me about what really happened, or about a child's condition. So if that's what people are worried about, that it's this big money grab and that there's these secret deals going on behind the scenes, and they're like, nudge nudge, just you hit your quota of PS denials and you'll get a big fat bonus or whatever. No, a lot of times these people are just overworked, if anything, and not like they're making huge money off of this or anything like that.
Yeah, and Brittany says, yes, protective supervision seems so hard. All the denial reasons IHSS gives is so mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people will refer to their notice of actions, right? And just so everybody knows, if you got a notice of action denying protective supervision, usually it'll be more of like a cut and paste of the regulations. It's not. Yeah. It's supposed to be very specific and catered to why this person was denied, but very rarely, out of the hundreds and hundreds of notice of actions I've read, I maybe have seen like personal handwritten notes or hand typed notes from a social worker like once or twice ever. And so, yeah, the regulations for protect supervision are definitely, we've talked about this before. They're all a lot of it is very subjective, and a lot of it is also just very confusing. And to, you know, pun intended, but to be the devil's advocate in a moment, the other side, the regulations were not designed for children initially, right? Protect supervision was originally created for elderly individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's who were kind of aging out, or, you know, getting to that age where they required that attention. And so for this to transition into the child world, they had to create ACL 1525. And so the regulations for protect supervision are going to be very, very complex in some ways. In some ways they're not. But yeah, Brittany, you're right. It can be really difficult to get approved. And that is because of the proof part of it, the evidence part of it, right? IHSS, they're really, really firm on protecting our tax dollars, right? And so they do have kind of like a fraud funnel or a qualifying funnel. And if you do not check all those boxes in that outside the funnel, then you're going in it, right? And so we do tend to feel that funnel's far too wide. We do think it needs to be a little bit more narrow because of how many people are wrongfully denied, but still meet the criteria for protect supervision, right? And so it's frustrating that trying to obtain protective supervision a lot of times requires a strategy, unfortunately, and that it's unfortunate that we have to be here to do that for people, right? As an advocate group, we have to help you design a strategy. If your individual, your loved one, clearly qualifies, but you're not getting it, what piece are we missing here, right? Okay, sorry, we've got some comments, Dakota. Some questions here. Christy, can you talk about who qualifies for personal assistant with regional center? Do you want me to take that one, Dakota?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So, Christy, if you're still watching, sorry, I know you dropped that comment a little while ago. A PA, a personal assistant, anybody with regional center can get a personal assistant. It's not about, I mean, there are some qualifying needs for sure, but it's kind of I don't want to say the word entitlement, but it is a service that they can give to you if there's room in your schedule for it. So if a PA would help solve some challenges that you're dealing with, then it can be approved. And so that is kind of the whole thing with services with regional center. If you go into regional center and say, hey, what services does this person qualify for? My loved one, my child, whoever this is, what can you offer? They're not really going to answer that question, because they don't just give you a list of all the services that they offer. You can look that up online. You can see what services they offer online, but usually they want you to provide a challenge you're dealing with. And then if they have a solution, which could be a personal assistant, then they'll offer that. So a personal assistant, in a nutshell, is going to be an assistant to that individual or that household. So it's not always going to be like caregiving or babysitting in a way. It can be a lot more, what's the word? Versatile, right? So personal assistants can take that person out into the community and help them work on their skills. It can be somebody in the home helping them out with certain things. It could be helping you out as the caregiver in some ways. And so anybody can be the personal assistant. If it's a brother, an aunt, uncle, friend, neighbor, you can have anybody be the personal assistant. But as long as you have room in your schedule, that is what really allows for you to have a personal assistant. So if that individual's schedule is jam-packed, they have school, most of the day, they have ABA or therapy most of the day, and then there's an hour or two of respite throughout the week, what's left for the personal assistant time, right? Because maybe they got to go to bed in an hour, right? So yeah, I don't know how else to share that as, in an eloquent way, but that would be my brief definition of personal assistant and how you could probably get that from regional center. Any thoughts, Dakota, before we move on?
No, you get it. I don't know that much about regional center stuff, so I know the basics.
Jen, on DDSS, oh my gosh, I forgot. On the Department of Social Services website, I'm assuming, it says tutoring is covered for under regional center or self-determination program. Why is it so hard to get tutoring services from regional center? I know the school is primarily responsible, but my son's school wrote a letter saying that they don't offer tutoring or additional services that will assist my son. So Regional Center for Children will not provide anything academically. They don't provide academic support. So if this is an adult we're talking about, that's a little different. They can help you find academic support and sort of help pay for it in a sense. But if you're talking about a child, anything that's academic is going to fall into the school district's responsibility.
Is it? I mean, I assume if they should have an IEP. Is it normal for the school to say, "Oh, we just don't offer anything like that"? I feel like that's not. If you've got an IEP, they need to find some way to facilitate that education, right?
Yep. So to read her comment again, sorry, I think I blocked that second part out. I was going to answer that, and then I went on. I know the school is primarily responsible, but my son's school wrote a letter saying that they don't offer tutoring or additional services. Okay. So Dakota's right. If your child's on an IEP, if your child's on an IEP, that means they're receiving special education services. They may or may not be in a special day class, but they're getting special education services, which means they are entitled to whatever they need to succeed academically. So if they are not succeeding right now, then that's not on you. That's not on your child. That's on the school. If your child is not doing well academically, it's not their fault. It's the school's responsibility. If they have an IEP and they have a diagnosis of autism or an intellectual disability, developmental delay, then it is by law for the school to understand and know how to accommodate to this person. And so if tutoring is something that makes sense to you, you know your child better than anybody else. If you feel like tutoring in certain subjects would drastically help them, then it is something to push for. For the school to just straight up deny it and say I'm sorry, they didn't even deny it. They said that they don't even offer tutoring. That's a lie. I'm just going to tell you right now, that's a flat out lie from your school.
Well, let me ask, because I feel like I'm trying to remember the information I've gleaned from Myra over the years. If the school doesn't have the staff, doesn't have the services available on campus, they're still financially responsible for ensuring the education goes through. So if they have to bring in a third party specialist, whatever, then it's still on the school, not regional center, to pay for whatever's needed to ensure the educational goals are met, right?
That's exactly correct. And I have never spoken with or heard of a school, regardless of how small the school may be, if it's a private school or a charter, maybe if it's a homeschooling charter, that might be different. But I don't know the last time I've ever heard a school say that they didn't have some type of tutoring assistance to offer in some way, shape, or form, right? But Dakota's right. If the school doesn't have anything to offer, that's not your problem. That's not your child's problem. That's a they problem. If they can't offer it, okay, then they got to pay for somebody else to offer it. It's as simple as that. And so if you need some more help, Jen, I know, again, we're speaking very freely and it's easier said than done just to tell the school to do what they need to do. But if you are having some difficulty communicating with them, let us help you. We do have an education department here called Advocacy, and our advocates would love to connect with you and share with you your rights and your child's rights, your, kind of the things you should know, some really important things. Teresa, what are you doing here? You said a lot of changes are coming as policy changes at the higher level than the social worker. We're also seeing a lot more people with years of PS losing it.
Yeah, that's definitely a standout. Is because it's never been weird to see people get denied PS. That's always been very common. What is unusual is the people that have had it for so long that suddenly lose it out of the blue. But to the first part of what she's saying, if you are going to see people changing the way that they run things because laws changing and regulations changing, it's not going to be the social workers themselves. It's going to be their supervisors and their supervisors and the department heads and those people. Those people might be swayed by, the financial penalties or the changes in the budget or whatever. But for the most part, I'd say the social workers are just doing whatever their supervisors tell them, and they're just getting a paycheck. So, yeah, it's those people up there that we have to convince.
I agree. Excuse me. Roxanne, IHSS just terminated our hours. They said we are not cooperating when I misunderstood the date for the first annual assessment. Good thing they rescheduled us with Connie's help. Shout out Connie from our office. She's an advocate from Galt Advocacy. We were able to do the assessment. They added 37 more hours. Connie is awesome. Way to go. Way to go, Roxanne, and way to go to Connie.
We love to hear it. And Connie, she always gets great reviews from her clients. Just saying. But we love telling her, you know, whenever we hear something good about her, be like, they're talking you up, Connie.
That's right. Fun fact, Connie is one of our, if not, I think she's the longest tenured advocate with Galt Advocacy right now.
Is she really?
I think. I could be wrong.
Well, has she been here longer than me and Caleb?
Connie, I don't know.
It's close. It's probably either me or her, right?
Connie started out as a client. At whatever time she went from being a client to an advocate, I don't know what that is.
Okay, we don't know exactly, but we should look into that because she, you know, maybe we.
Maybe you beat her.
Connie knows her stuff. We'll leave it at that. She's great. And we're so glad that your experience with Connie was great, Roxanne. And thank you for sharing all of that. We're sorry you had to go through that headache, though. That's a nightmare.
I'll say for other people, it is not appropriate for the county to say, "Oh, you missed one meeting. We're going to terminate your case." They're not supposed to do that. And when you have someone like we were saying, you know, this person had Connie. If you have an advocate or someone who knows their stuff, they'll talk to the county and say, "Don't do that. You know how this is going to end. We're going to file for a hearing. The hearing officer is going to go, you did not seriously drop their case because they missed an assessment, and it's all going to get resolved eventually, which is a big headache for everybody." So it's like most social workers are smart enough to know that they're not allowed to just drop something because they missed one meeting. So
yeah,
if this happened to you, just talk to somebody higher up. If they don't fix it, file for a hearing, and the hearing officer will absolutely fix it before you ever see a judge.
Yep. All right. We have another big comment, a big question coming up that I definitely have lots of thoughts on.
Okay.
Before we do that, before we read it, to those of you who are watching, let me see if I can find it. Has this information been helpful? Leave us a Google review and let us know, please. Let us know.
QR code for Google reviews.
I know I love that. That's a great idea.
We'll figure that out. Anyway, Teresa said she put a link in the comments, so look for that if you want to leave a review.
Perfect. I had something else I was going to say. What the hell? Oh, if you guys can share the stream, love it, tag some people, tag some friends, tag some support groups, please do it. We'd love to meet as many of you as we possibly can. All right, Brianna, thanks for waiting. If you're still here, I live in North County, San Diego, and I asked my boys, a social worker, caseworker, for more personal assistant hours. And she said that it doesn't exist for our area, but she agreed that my boys would qualify if the service was offered in San Diego. Is it worth fighting for if they already have some respite hours? So, no regional center. So I'm going to tell you, Brianna, I think it's time to possibly educate this caseworker. It may be innocent, I don't know, but I do believe that all the regional centers can provide a personal assistant because it's a huge service with the regional center. And so for a regional center caseworker to say that it's not something that they offer, it kind of goes against the regulations in a sense, because regional center cannot deny something that is a service that all regional centers provide. So a personal assistant is not a specific vendor, right? So if somebody in San Francisco, Golden Gate Regional Center, if they have a vendor and it's a dance class studio, right? That dance class studio is not going to be the same for every regional center. So San Diego Regional Center can't offer services to pay for that dance class up in San Francisco, right? But the dance class itself, that is a day program. That's a recreational day program or a life skills day program. That's a service that is under every regional center that they have to help out with, right? Respite is a service that they have to help out with. These are some of the basics. These are basic services with regional center. So a personal assistant, for them to just say we don't offer that, it's either something this individual caseworker has never done before, which would be odd, But I would most certainly try and speak with a supervisor and say, hey, maybe they just don't know. But I assume you guys do offer personal assistant to other clients, right? So what am I missing here? Why can't I get this? And if they give you some more headache after you talk to a supervisor about that, give our office a call, because it would be very odd for them not to provide you with a personal assistant hours. And if there's anybody in San Diego County or who's a part of the North San Diego County Regional Center, let us know your experience with them. Let us know if you have a personal assistant for your loved one. That might provide some perspective there. Teresa, again, when asking for a personal assistant with Regional Center, they are looking to see if the dependent needs help getting out in the community, learning interpersonal coping and social skills. That's a big reason for the personal assistant. So yes, like I was mentioning earlier, it's not necessarily like there is, of course, qualifying criteria, kind of like what Teresa said here, but most people who are clients of the Regional Center are going to require some help in these areas, right? Generally speaking, not everybody, but most people. That's why services like respite are sort of almost all automatically they'll give to you as long as there's room in the schedule, because you're probably going to meet the criteria for it. And so if you have a loved one who needs help with any of these things that Teresa mentioned, then a personal assistant is a great solution to help with those things. And that's just a short list of some of the things they can do. Jen, they have tutoring only for regular kids, not SDC. SDC.
Special day class?
Oh, maybe that's it. Thank you.
Not who they is in this context, but I mean, if we're talking about like if we're going back to the question about like, the school saying they can't offer tutoring services or whatever, like we said before, if they don't have it at the campus, they got to facilitate it somehow. They got to pay for it, private tutor or whatever is necessary.
Yeah. Jen, if they're going to discriminate and say that they don't offer tutoring because a child has an IEP or is in a special day class, that is crazy. Now, there may be something I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, because Dakota and I are not education advocates. It's not something we specialize in.
We do have education advocates, and maybe we'll need to have them on for a live soon, because there's a lot of regional center and school stuff going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So for a child to be on an IEP in a special day class, there's lots of cases where the kiddos maybe only do half days at school and the other half at home. Who's teaching them at home? A lot of times it's not mom or dad. It's a tutor from the school. It's somebody from the school who comes to the home and helps them. So for them to not offer it, I just don't understand. So I'm very curious. We are very curious, Jen. I would love for you to give our office a call and maybe book a consult with Vinaya or Dana in our education department, because I think they would love to try and see what's going on to help you. Rodora, when are you guys having the class for IEP and how to advocate your child's right on the money? Dakota, any thoughts?
We had one recently, didn't we? Did we?
I think a few months ago, in July, I think.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
We should do them more often. Teresa, can we do them more often?
Okay, I have two questions for Teresa. I'll relay her answers if you can't hear. One, the one that we did before, is there any way to get the recording, or is there anything of that one that people can still access? And two, do you have any plans to do another one soon? Okay, so no to the first question.
We do another one soon if we have enough interest.
If we have enough interest, we can maybe do another special education workshop, seminar type thing soon. So where should people let us know? Should they tell us on Facebook that they're interested?
Private message me and say, I'm interested in special ed.
Okay. If people are interested in a special education Zoominar, they should message us here on Facebook.
Would it be crazy, Teresa, to make a post, almost like a poll, asking if anybody would be interested? Or is that not even necessary?
We can make a poll. We'll get on that, because it sounds like there's a lot of special education and maybe regional center questions going on today. Maybe we could do a combined thing.
I like that. Let's put Vinaya and Dana to work.
We'll pull interest and see what people want. Yeah.
Jen, what school districts do we work with? So we work all over the state. And for school, so for the families that we support with IHSS and Regional Center, that's going to be California. But for school, technically we can work nationwide. So we don't typically support many families outside of California, because outside of California, even though education law is it's federally mandated and regulated. It's all the same. Every state does have certain state protocols and policies that are going to be different. Like they have different timelines, right? If you're requesting an IEP here in California, or if you're like an emergency IEP meeting in California, to my understanding, it's a 15-day thing. If it's an emergency meeting, it's either 15 days or 30 days. I literally talked about this with Vinaya a couple of weeks ago, and I told her I can never remember. Our deadlines here in California are either 15 days or 30 days. I think there's a couple of them that are like 60 or 90, but most of them are 15 to 30. But in other states, they're different. In other states, an emergency IEP meeting might mean they have to do something within 2-3 days, or a month, or 2 months, right? So there's a lot of that stuff. So we don't have a lot of people we work with outside of California. But if you're in California, then it doesn't matter what school district you work with. We can probably help you. Roxanne, they sent us a letter and they removed all hours in our IHSS portal. Huh? Wait a minute.
I think this is the one who worked with Connie who missed their.
Oh,
wait, is it? Yes, it is. Yeah. So one thing, and this is something that we've seen before, and is a very inappropriate way that they go about doing this, and is really to Roxanne's comment, is sometimes because the state and because the counties are, if you are under the CFCO program of Medi-Cal, that's a program that a lot of people are under if they are more have more severe needs for IHSS. If you're under that program, you need to have your assessment every 12 months, and the county is in charge of making sure that happens. And if they don't get there and give you an assessment within 12 months, then they're charged a penalty. Again, going back to like late fees, like we were talking about way earlier. They have late fees that they have to pay the federal government. They have to repay some money that they were given because they're not doing their job in taking care of these severely impaired individuals who are on CFCO. And they're like, well, we've got the solution. We're gonna get a penalty if we don't take care of these people and assess them every 12 months. Well, what we're gonna do is we're just not gonna assess them at all. We're just gonna terminate them from the program, and then it's not our job to take care of them anymore.
Yeah.
There, now we don't have to pay a penalty, and so
problem solved.
That's what they've been doing to some people. So if you're on CFCO and you just like they are really insistent, they're breathing down your neck, like we have to do this meeting today, and if you don't do it today, we're cutting you off the program. That's probably why they're like, well, if we give them, if we give them an ultimatum and then they say, sorry, I can't do it, then we can take them off the program. And then it's not our fault that we didn't do our job.
You know, what's funny is to talk about that for a moment. And Ernie, I know you have another question. We have a few more questions. We're going to get to them. Don't worry, guys. Hang tight. Don't go anywhere. So with that said, too, I've had multiple conversations with multiple different social workers where a client, a family that I'm working with, it's the same thing. Hey, we can't do the assessment. My social worker said if we can't do it on this day, that they're going to terminate my benefit, right? Same conversation. There have been many times where I've reached out to that particular social worker, and in this case, several different social workers, and they've all said something very similar. And I'll reach out and say, hey, so my client that I'm working with, they mentioned that you told them this. Well, that's kind of a silly thing to say, right? They must have been mistaken. So we can reschedule this, right? It's not going to be a problem. You're not going to terminate the benefit. You're not going to terminate their hours because they need to push it out a week because they have an important doctor's appointment. Every time I've asked that, it's different now because of the fee, right? But from before, this is what they would say. They would say, oh, well, no, I mean, they wouldn't like lose their hours, of course. If they need to reschedule, it's not a big deal. When we say terminate, so technically we have like the schedule. So we have to like almost like temporarily terminate them for a second. And then we just reignite their case again, like that same day. And so they'll get a notice of action saying it's terminated because we have to get it done within this time period. But then their hours will just be reignited. So yes, it's terminated, but that's just kind of an internal term. They're not actually losing their hours. I've literally had that exact conversation with a handful of social workers.
Yeah, it's a little sneaky.
Moving on.
Yeah.
We can talk about that for forever.
I think that Ernie had a question, right?
Yep. Ernie, what is the max hours for personal assistant? My social worker said they can only give my daughter 90 hours and 40 hours for respite. So there is no maximums, to my understanding. I could be wrong. There's no maximums for respite. There's no maximums for personal assistant. The maximum is your schedule, your routine. So they will fit in the maximum amount that can be utilized in that person's day-to-day. So if there's only 40 hours a month available for respite or 40 hours a month available for personal assistant, then that's all that person's going to get approved for. And sometimes they don't even get approved for that much. Sometimes a regional center will approve a lower amount and say, hey, use this amount first. Yes, there's room in your schedule, but use this first because we're paying for this. And what if you don't use it all, right? Because that happens. A lot of people will get 90 hours a month approved for services and they use half of them. So regional center doesn't want to do that. They want to give you a little bit first, and usually not all regional centers, but a lot of times they'll give you a little bit first. And then if you need more later on, they'll grant more. But there isn't technically a maximum. It's your schedule that they look at.
Yeah, I've heard that about them kind of doing incrementally of saying, okay, let's start with a smaller amount, go a couple months, use all of it. And if you still have issues where if you can show us that you need more for this or that, then we can talk about increasing it again. But they'll not going to jump straight to, oh, you need 150. Let's just give, unlikely.
Yeah. So we do have a question I actually don't fully know the answer to. Christy, you said, can a personal assistant drive a client under the age of 18 to do tasks? To my understanding, it's a no. To my understanding, if they're a minor, it's a no, I think, but I could be wrong. Because it actually is a little difficult to get a personal assistant for a minor. It's not that it's a little bit more challenging because there's going to be a few more steps, a few more requirements for a child to get a personal assistant, because usually the child's getting, again, their needs met at school. They're getting ABA therapy services, therapeutic services, respite possibly. And then, it's a little bit more complicated, but I don't believe the personal assistant can take them out into the community when they're a minor, but I could be totally wrong on that. Dakota, do you have thoughts or know the answer to that one?
I don't know. I would leave that to Vinay if I were asked.
Okay. We can do some research too and get back to you, Christy. Priscilla, I need a personal assistant. How do I go about getting one? You contact your regional center, and let's go back to Teresa's question here, or comment. So Priscilla, Teresa wrote this. She said, when asking for personal assistant with regional center, they're looking to see if your dependent, your loved one, your child, whoever this is, needs help getting out into the community, learning interpersonal coping and social skills. So if your child or your loved one needs something, needs some help in those areas, then the personal assistant might be something that can help with that. And so to start is you would reach out to your caseworker at regional center and you would say, hey, I learned about a personal assistant. Here's some of the challenges that we're having, or here's some of the things we want to work on. Is that something that is that something a personal assistant can help with? And if so, how do we go about getting it approved? How do we go about getting that service for this person? And then your caseworker should be able to take care of you from there. But if they don't, if they give you some trouble, like there's another individual here saying that their regional center apparently doesn't give personal assistant hours. If that is the case, if you get that, Christy, then give us a call. We'd love to see what we can do for you.
I think you were answering Priscilla's question, and Christy had a different question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Priscilla. Yes, excuse me, Priscilla. That one was for you, Christy. Thank you, Dakota. Can an adult get personal assistant and have IHSS caregiver? Ooh, Dakota.
I don't see why not. I mean, unless your IHSS worker is doing all the things that the personal assistant is supposed to do, but I think they generally cover different aspects of life. Does that sound right to you, Caleb?
Well, so a personal assistant can do some IHSS tasks, but not like for the vast majority. To my understanding, the rules say no. You can't have the personal.
Wait, no to what?
No to doing the tasks of IHSS, which makes them two different things, technically, right? So to answer the question, yes, you can have both IHSS, where a caregiver can work for that person, which can be you as the loved one or the parent, and you can have that person also have a personal assistant. The issue is getting those hours to overlap and like coexist. That's the challenge that people have. So if you have 8 hours of IHSS a day for this person, and then you also have 8 hours of personal assistant a day, and then you also have 8 hours of respite a day, you magically created a 8 times 3, Dakota. My brain's going blank. You can actually, no, that's 24 hours in a day. Oh my gosh. You just covered your 24 hours. No, I was trying to go above. Okay, you've got 10 hours of respite a day. Now you have 26 hours in a day. Obviously that doesn't work, right? So if you have IHSS and a personal assistant approved, which you totally can, that personal assistant just can't claim or work their hours while you're claiming your IHSS hours.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for stopping me, Dakota. Rodora, during your live conference, the presenter had mentioned that if you don't pass or meet the academic goal, the school is responsible for providing tutoring. Is that still true?
Well, I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about, I think tutoring, it would be one option if that's what, is found to be the most appropriate, the best solution. But I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier that, yes, and if the school can't themselves provide the tutor, then if you're on an IEP and you're not meeting your goals, they need to find a way to provide those services financially. So you seek out separate tutoring services, a private person doing it at home, whatever. But if you're on an IEP and they're not meeting their goals, then yeah, the school is responsible for stepping in and making sure that happens.
That is called compensatory services. So if the child is not meeting goals, because there's 3 options to choose from. The goal was either met, unmet, or partially met, which means technically there's only 2 options. There's only 2 answers, right? Because if the goal was met, great, success. Now, of course, you have to double check yourself, because a lot of times the school district will write that they met the goal, but they really didn't. So you got to double check that always before you agree to that goal being met. The next option is unmet. Pretty clear, right? They did not meet the goal. They failed this child, this child in this scenario. And then partially met, which just means unmet. So if a goal is partially met or unmet, then the goal is unmet. That's just it. Okay. What the school cannot do is repeat the same goal. So a lot of times they'll make that seem really appealing, and they'll say, hey, you know what? The goal this year was 7 words, and little Johnny got 5 words. Oh my gosh, what progress. This is incredible. We're so close. We're just going to roll this goal over into the next semester. He should actually surpass it. It's going to be phenomenal. That sounds great, but that is not what the rules say. The rules say that they failed him, and now they have to give him more help, which could be tutoring, but they have to compensate for their failure. That's it. And so, yes, to answer your question, they could provide tutoring. They could provide different goals that maybe cater more realistically to the child or whatever, right? So the IEP meeting, the IEP world, it is a very complex one, and it's a really big challenge, as you probably already know as a parent, doing that. And so if you do need help with that, we can absolutely take a look at those goals for you. Call our office, chat with Vinaya or Dana.
Yeah, I think we need to rapid fire some of these questions. We've fallen behind quite a bit.
All right, I'm going to read them. You answer, Dakota.
Okay.
Louis, has IHSS been denying more PS lately?
That's the vibe we get, but we would have to spend a lot of time going over the exact numbers, and maybe we'll do that for a future live, but we do get that feeling, yeah.
Priscilla says, yes, I'm interested in a workshop. I have 3 kids on IEPs. I'm so clueless. Teresa, that counts for 3 families. That's 3 IEPs. 3 signups right there. Boom.
We will have her make a and actually officially say, what they're interested in.
Just put yes under it.
Okay. There is a post on apparently already.
There's a post.
Okay, what's next?
All right. Missy, SSI. Is SSI primarily the way you receive Medi-Cal? SSI is primarily the way you receive Medi-Cal, but I've heard there are other ways as well. Is this true? So Medi-Cal, yeah, there's other ways. Definitely.
There's other ways. There's Magi Medi-Cal and there's non-Magi traditional Medi-Cal. It's all just income. And I think one is income-based, one is asset-based, and one is both, something like that.
And age. Yeah, Magi is primarily going to be age. 65 and older, to my understanding.
Also disability based. So,
yep. Brittany said that's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. We said a lot of ridiculous things to say. What did we say?
I think I agree.
Jessica, welcome back as always. What is regional center sends you a budget number that you don't agree with for self-determination? Can you fight that? Kind of, yes. It kind of depends, to my understanding. This is going to be where Vinaya is going to have to help us out on this one. So yes, because self-determination is about what this individual would thrive with. And so we have seen budgets range from, $30,000 a year. It's a pretty modest budget, 30 to 60,000. But we've seen individuals get a couple $100,000 for their budget. And so it really kind of depends. I think it also depends on the regional center. But it is something you can discuss. As far as how to get it changed, like how you would fight regional center on that, that's the part that we would probably need Vinaya to chime in on, because I don't know. Radia, do you lose your respite hours if you don't use it often? Yes, you can. Estella, if SSI is removed, not by choice, does Medi-Cal automatically get removed / pulled away?
I believe it will, but like we were talking about, there are ways other than SSI to get Medi-Cal. So if you act quickly enough, you might be able to get it on one of those other programs without without a break in coverage, perhaps.
I can make it really simple. If you no longer qualify for SSI, and that's why they removed it, then you're probably going to lose your Medi-Cal, unless you have sort of like protected Medi-Cal through like the waiver at regional center, things like that. But yeah, odds are if your reasons for having Medi-Cal were the exact same reasons you got SSI, and now those reasons aren't there anymore, then you're probably losing both. But again, there are tactics, there are ways. We would recommend speaking with a Medi-Cal expert, somebody who's an actual advocate in that world. And we have those connections, so we'd be happy to share that person with you. Jen, a personal assistant can take a minor out under self-determination, depending on how they code them on their spending plan. Okay. So I knew there might have been a caveat there, because there are some different rules with the self-determination plan. So Jen, thank you for answering that question for us. Jessica, they be in the streets for real. Took me a while to let she drive because she is too young, but they pull now. Plus King is back front seat drive, we'll correct anyone driving, I bet. Thanks for sharing. Steph, have an appeals hearing on Monday. I have lots of reports and statements to show cognitive impairment. Any hot words not to say?
That's a big question. I'll just say that
regarding PS, she says, which we assumed that.
I mean, I'd say the biggest thing is not maybe a specific word, but just always make sure that when you're giving examples, that you also make it clear that this is not the only time this happens. It's not only in these circumstances. Like if you say, the judge asks, well, when was the last time he eloped? Oh, well, the last time he saw an ice cream truck and he ran to the front door, ripped it up and ran out into the street. Follow it up by saying, but then other times there's no truck, he just runs out, right? As an example, because they will ask you for an example, but then once you've given the example, they will treat that like the only time it ever happened. So I always say make sure that you tell them in generalities that things happen very often for various different reasons.
That, and if you're going to give an example, like our favorite is the ice cream truck example. We bring this one up a lot as an example here. When you bring that up, the only thing a judge hears, if you were to do word picture association, like picture that story in your head. If you were to picture that story, what's the only thing you picture in that whole story? Dakota?
Ice cream. That's what I think of.
All you picture is an ice cream truck. That's all they're going to think about. That's all they're going to see. They're going to totally belittle the actual behavior, the part of the whole reason you're bringing the story up, right? And so that applies for all of those types of examples. I would agree with Dakota. I'd say any other tips we should have? Probably we don't really have hot words. We could say tips. Keep emotions out of it. Emotions, unfortunately, can be really difficult to use as a tool in front of a judge, because the judges don't care about you. They don't care about this person. Their job is to look at the facts. Their job is to look at the evidence. So anything you share, try and have evidence to back that up. Okay, it's 1:02. How are we doing? Should we?
I mean, we're running into it, but I think I think we should at least get this one. This is kind of a
Let's try.
question.
Let's try. Kathy, waiting list for WPCS is so long as for adult. We apply for the waiver HPCA. We are still waiting, but I'm getting IHSS already. Is there an exception to get both IHSS and WPCS? What exception would I need?
First off, there is no exemption. You can get IHSS and WPCS together as long as you have needs for both. You did mention it's for an adult. That is difficult because there are like 3 categories of people that can get sort of the waiver quicker, and one of them is people under the age of 18. So unfortunately, if you're not one of the other 2 categories, it just takes a really, really long time to get a waiver, and we're aware of that, and that's why we don't really push people to say, oh, you should absolutely get on WPCS, because we know it can take years to get the waiver to get WPCS. So
yep. Missy, we will send you some information. We will drop a comment for Medi-Cal Consulting Services. Alyssa, we make too much to continue getting Medi-Cal for our children with our IHSS pay. Is there a way we can be around the income for our child's Medi-Cal with having IHSS? If they are clients of the regional center?
Yeah.
Sorry, if they're clients, yes. Clients of the regional center, you can get the waiver. I'll be starting the self-determination soon. How will my Protect Supervision affect this? Dakota?
I don't believe it will affect it. If anything, like the self-determination definitely won't affect your PS. It shouldn't affect in the other direction either, but regional center is more likely to be affected than IHSS, I would say.
Yep, I agree.
Yes, absolutely that. Absolutely that.
Yes, 100%. And Lixia, yes, give our office a call. We'd love to help you.
Sorry if it feels like we're going really fast. We're trying to. Nicole's breathing down my neck right now. She's trying to get in here.
Sorry, Nicole.
She's about to kick us out, so we better.
Yeah.
Oh, Desiree, how long is our wait? I did a free consultation form on your website in July for Protect Supervision. It's getting better. It's getting better, but we're still like a month or 2 out. Yeah, in the meantime, if you're waiting, if you're on my calendar and you're waiting for a consult, if you have questions, if you have things that you want us to review ahead of time, get connected with Michelle at the front desk. Ask her questions. She can email me stuff that I can maybe quickly respond to. But we're trying to shorten that window a little bit for you. Daisy, what is WPCS? Waiver of Personal Care Services.
Yeah. And you have to be on the HCBA waiver to get it.
And thank you all.
2 to 3 year wait list. All right, we get it. We got through everyone.
Nice.
Okay, we're gonna have to log off real quick here because, yeah, we've gone over our time. But thank you everyone for being here. It's a joy as always. Me and Caleb, we always enjoyed this week. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Dakota.
Wrong side.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
On my oh, okay. There you go. Thank you for joining today. I'm clicking end now.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy Friday. If you speak Spanish, join Nicole at 1 o'clock. She's coming on right after us. All right, everybody. Yeah, right now. We're late. Sorry. Bye, everybody.